I don't want to alarm anyone, but I think we need to alert the press that the Flames finally scored 4 goals for the first time in 8 games.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today, we are going to be recapping the game that was against the Nashville Predators last night, and just how much of a success it was and what worked, who played a key role in making sure the Flames won, what did the numbers look like, and of course, what to keep an eye out and what's on our radar. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And let's jump right in. So we know the Nashville Predators had quite the offseason, and the expectations were high, very high. Like, I'm talking Stanley Cup favorites high. And they have had a stinker of a start to the season. Now, that kind of reminds me of last season when the Oilers went on that 17-18 game losing streak and then made it to the Stanley Cup final. So, like, truly anything is possible, especially this time of year. But right now, things are not looking good for Nashville. They went out and got Steven Stamkos. They went out and got Jonathan Marchessault and Brady Shea. And what happened? It's like it all collapsed in on itself. And Andrew Burnett even said that he would scratch any one of his guys right now. So that's where things are at in Nashville. And the Flames went in and took advantage of all of their weaknesses. And I'm so grateful that this happened because it was quite the game for the Flames. And let's talk about those difference makers. The biggest difference makers are, of course, the penalty kill. What a night it was for them. Not only did the team only have 2 penalties, fantastic, very proud of them, down from the 56, it feels like, last game, but it was a huge night defensively. They had a fantastic just defensive game. And it wasn't just from your defensive group, it was from everyone in your lineup, and everyone was doing everything they could to make sure the Flames stayed ahead or at least won. And, last night they blocked 21 shots total. I know that Weegar, Pahal, Rooney, they all had big blocks as well. And it just felt like it was a different team out on the ice. And I don't know what it is. They do this sporadically, and it kills me because it fills me with a little bit of hope. And I feel like I've been covering this team long enough to know, do not let the Flames give you hope in December. But Dan Vladar had a huge night too. Kudos to him because things have not been easy on the road. And he goes out there and does it. He does it very well too. He had some very big saves and dealt with a lot of nonsense. The last 2 games, I would say, have been particularly frustrating. And I think a lot of it is obviously the lack of offense and discipline from the Flames. But Saturday, Sunday night, when they played the Stars, Jamie Benn got kind of physical with Dustin Wolf. And then last night that happened again with Dan Vladar. There was a scramble in front of him, and, he's getting poked and prodded at like a science experiment, like a violent science experiment. And then he ends up, retaliating and fighting back. And I don't have an issue with that. We saw it a few weeks ago in Columbus with Merzlikins and Weegar, but, I feel like Dan Vladar is a very even-keeled player, and, for him to stand up like that, it's big. I mean, it's frustrating. And I don't want to see this become more of a frequent thing. Like, yeah, it's fun when goalies like show personality other than stopping a puck. But I just, I don't think we need to be doing so much to antagonize goaltenders. Everyone should just keep their hands to themselves in that respect, because I can only imagine what would happen if the Flames did something similar to UC Saros, their franchise goaltender. I'm just saying, no matter what. But regardless, last night was a huge game for the penalty kill. And this is very big. I have spent all season harping on the lack of discipline that leads to the penalty kill, that leads to goals. Last night, the two penalties were too many men on the ice, which is hysterical because Nashville also had too many men on the ice right before that call, before Calgary's was called. So it's just like, I don't know. I feel like to start the game, they were very whistle happy, and it was kind of driving me crazy. And I was very worried it was going to be an uneven game. And I guess it wasn't. And then Backlund back-checked someone, or cross-checked someone, rather, late in the third. So, I mean, like, I'm just glad it's not stupid things, I guess. Like, too many men, yeah, you should know what you're doing, but it's not the extracurriculars after the whistle or an unnecessary hit or, an unnecessary fight, things like that. Like this, these are part of the game. These are things that happen. Could Backlund have avoided that penalty? Yeah, probably. But you know what? I will take it. It goes to show that the penalty kill can do its job and kill a penalty. And that's great because they need something to boost their morale. But coming up next, we are going to break the game down by numbers because Jonathan Huberdeau, I fear, may be on fire. Get ready to take on the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. My favorite thing about the FanDuel app is the simplicity and the user interface and just how user friendly it is, because I don't like having to go on scavenger hunts when trying to place bets. I just want to place a bet and cross my fingers. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day. So last night was the first time the Flames have scored 4 goals in a singular game in 8 games. The last time was against Minnesota on November 23rd. That is 20 days ago. That is a very long time. And I'm so glad that streak is over because I wasn't sure they were ever going to score more than 3 goals ever again. So good for them. Especially all of these coming in regulation too, I think are great. Obviously, Jonathan Huberdeau had the game-winning goal, which was a power play goal, which is huge. He has 10 goals on the season for so far, and a 5-game point streak. So let's keep this going. This is huge, especially considering how horrendous last December was for him, where he went until the last game of the month, New Year's Eve, before getting on the score sheet. Last season, he had 12 goals. He has 10 goals in 29 games. We are never going to see 115-point Huberdeau ever again. So you know what? I will take this. I think it's great. And I've talked about it before, but celebrating the individual victories along the way is just as important, because I mean, realistically, we know this team is not going to win a Stanley Cup, but finding those things that you can easily root for makes the 82 game season a lot more bearable. Obviously, we were also excited for Huberdeau to finally get the 500th assist. He did that. The 1,000 games for Michael Backlund, Dustin Wolf starting in the NHL. You have to find these little things. Otherwise, you are just going to be miserable. And why even watch hockey at that point, you know? But a 5-game point streak for Jonathan Huberdeau is huge. I am very excited and proud of him, obviously. I think that, you know, his luck is turning around. And I saw someone post last night, like, oh, all it took was for this team to be bad to get prime Huberdeau again. And I couldn't stop laughing. Like, yeah, yep. And that feels like the most Calgary Flames thing that could have happened as the outcome of this trade. So good for him. Big night. You know, he's had 5 great games in a row. Can he make it 6? Like I mentioned earlier, they had 2 penalties on the night. They just had the too many men bench minor, which, you know, I think that is so silly considering Nashville also, they just didn't get called for it. Okay, cool. I feel like this penalty is, like, I get why it's there, obviously, 100%. But it feels so dumb when you get called for it, because it's like, what do you mean you cannot count? Why didn't you come off the bench or off the ice faster? Why, like, what is the reason? And it is what it is. But you can't go back and fix it. But this is now 2 out of the last 3 or 4 games the Flames have had too many men on the ice. So maybe we need to be paying better attention. Just a thought. And they had 16 shots in the second period. That is very impressive. For a team that sometimes feels allergic to shooting the puck, they most certainly love to go on these random spurts of shooting a lot, like rapid shooting. And I mean, look at what happens when you shoot the puck. You score more goals. I know this is such a bold and brave assumption to make, that if you shoot the puck, you'll score more goals. I understand that it's record groundbreaking science, but I feel like they need that reminder, because it feels like they get so caught up in the just they get so caught up in themselves, and they don't remember the fundamentals of the game, or they're just like quite literally walking on eggshells to complete a shift. And they looked more comfortable out there against the Predators last night. So I don't know. It is just very weird for the Flames to not really have any, like, it feels so, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I guess the inconsistency. The inconsistency is what kills this team, because if you can consistently put up double-digit shots, you know, in 2 periods, great. And it just outshooting your opponents, like, it is something that they are very capable of doing, as we have seen. They almost put up 50 shots on goal last week or the week before. Like, we know they can shoot the puck. It's a matter of taking advantage of those opportunities, and they do overpass still. I think that they've gotten better with it, thankfully, but the lack of confidence it has when shooting the puck is concerning. I feel like it is getting better. I feel like when you have players that are younger, that are coming in and just taking right over. And they're kind of, breathing life back into the lineup in terms of like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be fun. You don't have to pass. You can actually shoot the puck. And that's great, because sometimes I feel like the coach can say that as much as he wants, right? Like, shoot the puck, shoot the puck, shoot the puck. But when your younger teammate that's like half your age comes in and is like, hey, I just scored a goal. Because what did I do? I didn't overpass. I shot the puck. I think that's great. And one of the nice reminders that the Flames unfortunately need from time to time. But I am impressed. There's only so many like moral victories you can take here and make the most out of it. But I was talking with JD Young from Locked On Sharks this off season and earlier this season outside of the show, and being a bad team can be fun. It is what you make of it. And I think that that is very important, because no one is forcing you to watch these Flames hockey games. No one's forcing you to listen to a podcast or follow team coverage. But if you can find the small victories like Jonathan Huberdeau, his point streak, Mackenzie Weegar basically taking over Chris Tanev's role in blocking shots, Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar's transition to NHL goaltenders, or, the integration of the youth. Find things to be happy about and celebrate, and your hockey viewing experience will be much better. But coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with what is on my radar and what you might want to keep an eye out ahead of the Flames' next game. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money, whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports. Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here's why you need to get started today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. No need to win. That's the $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where select player projections are discounted up to 25%. This week, Prize Picks, I'm eyeing the hockey board looking at Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal and Artemi Panarin for more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make my picks and have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are following me on Twitter at Jessica Belmosto. So the Flames are back home tomorrow night, taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Should be good game, fun game. The Lightning confuse me. They're one of the teams that just really, you feel like they're going down that path of, okay, like we ran our course, it's time to start rebuilding. And then they get kind of good again. And granted, this is their first season without Steven Stamkos. But I don't know. I don't feel like they're that far out of the race. But like I mentioned before, this is huge for the Flames, I think, coming off of a victory like that after going on that win streak, the losing streak, and then the bumpy road of win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. But coming back home where they play better, playing a good team, is good. Because they have something, they have those external factors. We know that they are competitive by nature. they are professional hockey players. I would be concerned if they were just blasé about it. But I guess what I'm keeping an eye on is, of course, the latest transaction. And it is purely a paper transaction. And that is, of course, Walker Duehr and Jakob Pelletier being reassigned to the AHL. When you see that, it's kind of like, oh, okay. They both just had really good back-to-back games. What are we doing? But then you have to think about the stipulations and all the fun little rules that go into the waiver process and all that stuff. So the process right now is they can play 10 NHL games and be on the roster for 30 days, the NHL roster for 30 days before requiring waivers. I'm going to pull up a full explanation here and show you what I'm talking about. Pat Steinberg and Ryan Pike both do an amazing job of explaining the technicalities and I guess like the fine print behind these things. So I have my iPad here, and someone asked, but how come Peltz doesn't have to go through waivers like he did at the start of the season? Pat Steinberg said, so once the player clears waivers, they have an exemption period of 30 days or 10 games on an NHL roster until they have to clear again. Both Peltz and Duehr are currently waiver exempt. Sending them to the AHL pauses the exemption clock. Strictly a paper transaction. You don't have to worry about, obviously they're waiver exempt, so you don't have to worry about like holding your breath for the next 24 hours, hoping that neither of them get claimed. But yeah, because the Flames are off today and there's no practice, there's no sense in having them on the NHL roster. So this pauses it. And then I'm assuming they practice tomorrow. So obviously they practice tomorrow, the game's tomorrow. They will I'm assuming be recalled, and that clock will start again. Or not again, but it'll pick up where it left off, I believe. So that is fine. It is a paper transaction. It is nothing indicative of their style of play, their lack of production, which is not the case. They both have found themselves on the score sheet. The fourth line last night was absolutely killer. I really thought that, Braden Pahal scored. So for that to happen, for Patches to find the back of the net, that's incredible. That's hard work in itself. So obviously Rooney had a blocked shot. He had a goal. Duehr had an assist on Rooney's goal. So like they're all over the score sheet, and I'm not mad about it. I think that this is great. I think that this also proves that your fourth line is not what a fourth line used to be. The role of a fourth line has changed a lot. It's no longer just a bunch of old veterans that you sign on July 1st to kill minutes and do cardio. You need to have effective fourth lines. You have to have them out there and ready to go. And Pelletier does a really good job. So does Rooney and Duehr. They both, all three of them hold their weight. And as much as I talked about it yesterday, switching up the lines, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But also maybe if things start to get more comfortable or feel like kind of complacent, you switch it up a little bit. But I like what we saw last night. What I'm looking for more is, can Dustin Wolf be a little bit better? Tomorrow night, I'm assuming it'll be him against Tampa, which means Vasilevsky is probably in net for Tampa. And I mean, do we even need to show up to the game? I just feel like any game against like Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, like what I would say UC Saros, but UC Saros, thanks for the 4 goals last night. I feel like those two, it's just kind of like, okay, well, or Bobrovsky, I'm just going to go like skate around, do some twirls or something on the ice for a few minutes. Like we don't have to play this game. They're so good. And I hope someday people are saying that about Dustin Wolf because he deserves it. And I think that he has the caliber and talent to be an upper echelon goaltender. So let's keep on watching how the Flames handle these paper transactions as well as this roster management as we trek through the second half of the week here on Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic day and are staying warm, staying dry, staying cool, hydrated, moisturized, whatever the case may be. And most of all, remember to be kind. And I will see you all tomorrow. Again, make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. Here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day.